Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, hello, my name is Taylor. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not already, you can click the subscribe button right down below so you can see future videos from me, and you can also turn on the bell notifications by clicking on the bell. That means you will get notified every time I post a video. So today I'm going to be talking about all of my favorite makeup brushes. So I did get a request to do this video and talk about my favorite makeup brushes. I thought it was a really good idea because I never have really talked about my brushes. I've never really talked about them in videos. Sometimes I will kind of say what brushes I'm using, but yeah, I thought it'd be a good idea so you guys can see exactly what brushes I love and what I use in my videos. I pretty much use the same brushes in every single video, so it's kind of repetitive, but I thought it'd be nice to actually share with you guys what the brushes are and why I like them and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I'm doing today. For certain products there is more than one brush that I do like to apply them with, but in this video I'm just talking about like my favorites. So for example, I do have two blush brushes that I really like, but I'm just talking about my favorite one. I really just wanted to limit this video down to my all-time favorite brushes, the ones that I probably couldn't live without. You'll also see that 90% of them are Morphe for two reasons. I used to be subscribed to their monthly brush subscription, which I'm actually signing back up for because I really miss it. But yeah, so every month I would get brushes from them, and so yeah, that's why I have a lot of Morphe. Also, they are really good and affordable brushes, so I do recommend Morphe. They do have their hits and misses. Some of them are not always the best. I've had some that have kind of fallen apart, but for the most part they're really good. And then I do have a few other brands in here. So I'm first going to talk about face brushes because I don't have as many for that. So I have two powder brushes that I'm talking about because I do use both of these for different reasons. The first one is actually from Real Techniques, and this is just their standard powder brush. This is my favorite powder brush for just like all over powder. I like using this for like a compact powder and just kind of, you know, buffing it onto the skin. This is really great. It's affordable brush and it does a really good job. And so yeah, this is just always the one I've used. I've tried out different powder brushes, but for some reason I just always go back to this one. This one is by Morphe. This is the E3, and it's kind of like a dome shape. It's kind of unique. I like this one more for applying like a loose setting powder. I don't know why, but I just find that it grabs the powder a lot better and diffuses it a lot better than this one does. So I like that. I like that it's also a little bit smaller. It has like this dome shape, so it just fits really nicely on the face to pack in the powder. It's really good for buffing the powder away, for like kind of buffing under the eyes away. So it's just a really good multi-use brush when it comes to like powder products. So I really like this one as well. So for contour brush, I have a few that I really like. I kind of go through phases, and sometimes I'll use one brush for a really long time and then I end up switching and I like this one. But I feel like my overall favorite is this one, and it's the Morphe M530. So this is what it looks like. It's just a really good shape and size for contour for me. I'm not someone who likes a super harsh contour, but I do want a small enough brush that it gets it right in the contour of the cheeks, and this is really, really great. As you can see, it just fits super nicely right there. It blends the product out really nicely, applies it really nicely. I just really like my contour when I use this brush. So yeah, this is my favorite, but like I said, I do have a few other ones that I really like as well, but this is kind of my go-to. My new favorite bronzer brush is the Benefit Hoola Contouring and Bronzing Brush. I recently got this during the VIB sale and I really like it. I had one from Morphe that I really, really loved and I lost it, and I don't know what brush it was, so I can't even recommend it to you guys, but it was a really, really good one. But this one's really nice as well. I love the shape. Again, it's that really kind of domed shape, but it's very like the bristles are very loose, if that makes sense. It just like it fits the cheeks really nicely, as you see. So this is a really good one, but this is a more pricey brush. For blush, I have two brushes that I really love for blush, but this one is definitely my favorite, and it's the Morphe E4. It's this kind of like angled brush, and I just feel like this applies blush so perfectly. It fits on the apples of the cheeks so well, and you can just kind of like brush it back. It's a really, really good brush for blush. It's actually a really good contour one as well. I actually have two of these, and I have one that I will use more for contour and one I will use for blush. So it's a good contour brush as well. I personally like this one more just because it is smaller. But yeah, you could use it for that. This is my favorite blush brush. So this is my favorite brush for like setting my under eyes or sweeping away powder from my under eyes, and it's the Morphe M438. So it's a really small kind of domed brush. It's just so perfect because it fits in the under eyes so perfectly, as you can see. For example, if I'm using one of the highlighting shades from the Anastasia contour kit, this is the kind of brush I would use to apply it, and it just fits perfectly. I also use this all the time when I'm wiping away bake from my under eyes because once again, it fits perfectly. I've tried a few different other brushes that are similar shape to this, but this one just works the best personally. Just has the right amount of like density to it, and the shape is just perfect, and it's the nice size. So this is my favorite one for that. My all-time favorite highlighter brush is the Morphe M501, which just looks like that. It's kind of similar to the other one. It's not as dense and it's smaller, but this just applies highlight so beautifully. I actually had a fan brush from Morphe that I really loved for highlighter as well, but my boyfriend's dog chewed it up, and so I no longer have that brush, but this is my favorite one. I've also tried the M510 from Morphe. This is the one that was a recommendation from Jaclyn Hill when she did her like favorite Morphe brushes videos, and I've tried this one. I do not like this one as much. For some reason, this one just does not apply the highlighter the same. This one applies it so amazingly. This is the only highlighter brush I use now that I don't have that fan brush. So yeah, I really, really recommend this one. So I have two eyebrow brushes. I have one that's actually for applying like a dip brow product, and then I have one that I use for carving out my brows. My favorite one for applying product is the Sigma E75 angled brush. This is so worn out. I've had this ever since I started doing my brows, so it's been a long time. This guy's been in my collection for a long time. I have not tried out any other angled brushes like this, so I can't really say that this one beats them all because I haven't tried them all. I do think this is a really good one. It's really nice and thin, so you can really carve out the brows nicely. You can make a really defined line and fill them in nice, and it's a really, really good brush, and it holds up really well. I've had this for a long time. So this is my favorite brow brush. And then for carving out my brows, I've gone through quite a few different brushes, and I just find that this one's my overall favorite. It's the Morphe M432, and it's just kind of this like flat brush there, if you can see that. The reason I love this so much is because it is completely like flat and straight, so it makes it so easy to carve out your brows and make a really perfect straight line because the brush is so perfectly straight. I love that about it. This brush is just kind of a random brush, but I really love it. It's the e.l.f. concealer brush. It's this really, really small kind of like detailing brush. I just find that this brush is so good for so many things. I used to use this to carve out my brows. It's really good for getting into kind of smaller areas and to be a little bit more precise. So it's really great for that. It's really great for highlighting the brow bone, highlighting the inner corner. It's great for carving out the crease. I actually use this today because you can get really, really precise with it. You could use this as a lip brush. You could use this as so many different things. And this brush was like, I'm pretty sure it was only like $1. It's such a great brush for so many like small detailing applications, and I love it. It's really good. So next, we're obviously moving on to the eye brushes now. So I'm going to talk about all of my favorite brushes for more of the lower lash application. So these two here are pretty similar. This is the Morphe R, I think it says R41, but it's pretty worn off. And then the E18, I think. So this is what they look like. They're just both like kind of pencil brushes. I love using these brushes for applying the initial shadow to my lower lashes. It's thick enough that it covers the area really well, but like it diffuses the color really well and blends it really well. So this is such a great brush, and anytime I do my lower lash, I'm either going in with one of these two brushes first. So that's kind of like my first step. And then this one is like the smaller version, and it's the E36. So it's like it's a much smaller pencil brush. This one I like more for applying darker colors in the outer corner. I like it because you can apply the color really nicely and it goes on really pigmented and blends out well, but it's a lot smaller, so you can be a little bit more precise with it if you need a bit more of a careful application. And then this one is the M408. It's kind of like a flat, like a small flat shader brush. This is the brush that I would use for applying a shadow more to the lower lash line if I want something to be really close to the lash line. This is the brush I go in with. It picks up a lot of product and diffuses it really, really nicely. It blends it out really nicely. So I really, really like that brush for that purpose. And the last one is the M506. This one is a bit more of a fluffy brush. This one I like for the lower lashes, and I also like for applying like a deeper shade into the outer corner of my eyes. This is really great for just kind of blending out the lower lash line, but it's also really great for applying a darker shade because it picks up a lot of product and puts it on the lid really well, but because it's a bit of a fluffier brush, you can really blend it out. So I love this brush. It's also really great for getting a really precise crease application. There's just a lot of things you can do with a brush like this. And can we please ignore how dirty they are, because I pretty much used all of these brushes today. So yeah, they're pretty dirty. The first one I'm going to talk about is my favorite brow bone highlight and inner corner highlight brush. So this is the Morphe M431, and it's kind of like a more tapered pencil brush. Now, because it's so tapered, I don't find that it actually applies shadow on the lower lash line very well, but I find that it picks up highlight super, super well, and because it's so small, you can get it super precisely in the arch of the brow. You can also get it perfectly in the inner corner. So this is my go-to for highlighting my brow bone and my inner corner. My favorite brush to apply like a metallic eyeshadow, which you guys probably already know, and it's the MAC 242. This is the best brush to apply an eyeshadow with. So worth the money. It's the perfect size and shape, and it picks up a metallic eyeshadow so well and puts it on the lid so well. And because it's so nice and flat, you can get a really precise application with it. I can get it like right in the crease. Like I can almost create my own cut crease with this brush because it's so nice and precise. I love this, and I honestly could not live without this. Now, this is my favorite like initial transition shade brush, and it's the Morphe M504. It's this really big, fluffy brush. This is really great for applying an initial transition shade because it is so big and fluffy. It just diffuses the color all over the lid really, really nicely. It's really great if you're just wanting like a more sloppy all over application on the lid. If you're wanting something more precise, would not recommend this, but for initial transition shade, I want it to kind of be all over the lid. So this is my favorite brush for that. Okay, so I have three brushes here that are pretty much identical, but they're totally necessary for me. This is the M441, and then I have two from the Rose Gold collection, but I don't know the numbers. I believe it's like, I think the R43 and the R42, I think. I don't know for sure, but they're just standard like crease brushes. These are just amazing. I use these brushes, one of these three, sometimes all of them, every single time I do my makeup. These are just like a staple in my brush collection. These are amazing for applying shadows into the crease. These ones give a bit more of a precise application rather than the first one I showed you guys. They blend out the product so well, and these are just a staple. I could not live without these. I couldn't do my makeup without these, one of these brushes at least. You probably don't need all three of them, but I do because I use them so much. So I love these. This is another one of my like favorite brushes. I have two of them. Again, they're pretty much the same thing, but because it's such a staple brush for me, I need to have my backup. So this one is the R30, I believe, and this one is the M433. They're both very dirty. I apologize. But basically they're like a more flat, like a slightly more flat and not as long version of This brush is so amazing for packing on color into the like outer corner of the eye and then blending it out. Because it is a little bit more flat, it just picks up so much pigment and it packs it on really nicely, but because it is also slightly fluffy at the same time, you can blend out the edges with this, and I love this. Once again, I could not do my makeup without these brushes, and I use one of these every single time I do my makeup. These two are more like crease blending brushes, but they're very different than the original three that I showed you. The first one is the E22. I really love this brush. This one's different because it's a lot more dense, and because it is so much more dense, I feel like it picks up so much more pigment, but it also blends everything out really well. So I really like this. It's a little bit different than the other ones, but it's a really good brush. This one is the MB13, which just looks like that. So this one is the most like flat kind of looking out of them all. You can see there it's flat on the side and then it looks like that. This I find is just a really great brush for really precise, like for going into the crease and blending things out. This kind of brush is the one that I would use a lot if I'm doing a bit more of a cut crease kind of look, because it is so much more flat. It kind of gets really precisely in the crease rather than a brush like this where it's going to kind of diffuse all of the shadows around it. And the last brush I have is the M562, which just looks like that. It's very different. It's a very small fluffy brush, like very small, detailed. This is amazing for a really precise crease application. If you're wanting a brush to get really precisely in the crease, like really precisely, even more than the other one, this is the brush. They're both very precise crease brushes. This one I don't like so much for applying product. This is more for blending things, where this one is really good for applying it, and it does blend it out as well. So yeah, that is all of my favorite brushes. I hope that was informative for you guys. I pretty much use the same brushes in every single video, so if you've ever been wondering what brushes I use, now you know. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one.